Hello and welcome to the Possibility Partners Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, your Chief Possibility Officer, and I love sharing Andelicious advice with entrepreneurial adventurers. And these are conversations with seasoned entrepreneurs, all sharing their best tips, tools, and advice to help you and your business thrive and succeed. And I'm so thrilled to see a terrific audience here live today. We have Christine and Alice and Dre and Kim. And oh my gosh, Talk to Me Guy, Richard O is here as well, and quite a few others. I'm so grateful that you tuned in live today. Thank you. And you replay viewers, you make my heart sing with joy. And here's to you as well for tuning in and watching. Thank you for sharing your delicious energy. I'd love to stay connected with all of you. How about some social media connection? I mean, I'm an equal social media opportunity person. Is that the right word for it? Although everybody knows that I'm hanging out at my favorite bar, Twitter, more than any of the other platforms. So please reach out and connect. And if you'd like to continue watching the Possibility Partners Show, please take a moment and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Andelicious Advice. Woohoo! So today we have an extraordinarily talented, brilliant branding specialist with us today. You can see him right there on the screen. And let me just tell you, I found him, I think, on Twitter and then LinkedIn and then YouTube, and I became addicted to this man's advice. A recipient of over 345 international awards for his brilliant branding results. He serves mature brands, startups, and even cities, and helps them rise above the noise in their busy, crowded market space. Please, please join me in welcoming the oh so delicious David Brier. Thanks for joining us today, David.
Oh, thank you, Ande, for having me. I'm very, very thrilled to be here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. And there's a lot that we're going to talk about because we need to really get clear about why no one gives a blankety blank, fill it in, folks, whatever your favorite swear word is, about our brands. And we have a lot to go through about that. But first, I want to just share a little bit with folks about you and have you share, how did you get called to be an entrepreneur? What led you and compelled you to go out on your own, as well as why branding?
Well, okay. First thing is that I really never quite saw some place that I wanted to work at where I felt inspired by who I saw as the leaders, right? Mm-hmm. The bosses or the whatever, the owners. So that was one thing as far as so I always tended to lean on more of an entrepreneurial sort of angle. Because I felt that I always wanted to do something better than what could be being done, because expectations are one of those things that are, if you kind of deliver on expectations, just what's expected, you blend in. And I always liked to exceed and have that element of surprise, and just give more than what somebody, they were like, wow, how did you know? To me, that's one of the most rewarding words you could ever hear from somebody, is when you do something, they've asked for something, and you give them a bit more because you were able to connect the dots. And then when they say, how did you know? That's what it's, to me, that's just about the best reward that you can get.
I love that. I love that. And had you worked for somebody first before, and that's where you had your aha moment, like, I can do this better on my own with my own resources than relying on, or did you just start off on your own?
Well, I was always involved and interested in the arts. And so I, at first, when I was in college, I was really studying to be I was an art major, and I was studying to do, be an illustrator, this, that, the other, and such. But it was in my last semester of college that I saw a publication that blew. I mean, literally, I remember walking in. It was an art class, and it was going to be a usual art class as part of my curriculum. And I looked at this thing that just someone happened to leave from a prior whatever. And I started leafing through this, and my mind exploded. As far as, I've never seen somebody take all of the bits and pieces of design and a communication and a quality and such like that, and bring it in to such a level that it just was, you could be blind. It could practically cure the blind. It could practically cure shyness. It was unbelievable what this thing could do. And so I was so inspired that I actually decided to go into the area of design and branding at that point. And
Right.
so, and that was and by seeing that kind of leadership in action, not because
Yeah.
I didn't know who had done it yet. I only knew the outcome of that person's actions. By seeing that, I was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. And so in our offices here, I actually have a collection of those magazines in our sort of stashed. It's a sort of,
I love it.
yeah.
And what you just shared is when your genius was sparked. That happened to come across your plate, and it sparked something inside of you that now allows you to be fully expressed in the world, because it's taking your delicious artistic talent and bringing so much more that's probably so much more meaningful for you as well in presenting it. That's great. And then as an entrepreneur, I always like to find out, is there a daily practice, David, that you use to stay motivated, inspired, digging deeper?
Well, I find, and I noticed this early on because I was born at an early age in Brooklyn. That waking up is like a very good starting point when it comes to as a daily practice. And I feel that if I'm actually going to say that I'm awake, it's my job to actually make it rewarding for others. And so it's really just kind of if I'm not pumped. And so that's really the thing for me. It's like, what gets me jazzed? What gets me pumped? And so I will sometimes I'll look for different inspirations. Who's doing great things in the world? Who's actually delivering on great stories or great visuals or great, just show me something great. So I kind of hunt that out as a bit of a morning thing of what can I find that's really inspired, that somebody took the time to not just shovel out the usual crap. Because the bottom line is that there is so much usual crap. There's so much mediocrity, sort of average. It's like, well, I was told to do blah, so I did blah. Wow, isn't that inspired?
It's the blueprint mentality. We see it in the McMansions, and we see it back in mid-century with all the ranch houses looking the same. It's that repeatable. And
people have confused people. I would say that what I've seen is that people on a personal basis, whether they're entrepreneurs or in their life, that they've taken that sort of assembly line mentality. Let's make it efficient. Let's do this. Let's do that. Which basically is like, let's figure out how to do the least amount of effort with the maximum amount of quantity, when they've forgotten, wait a second, you're not a machine. You're not an assembly line. You can bring so much more magic to everything that you do on a moment-to-moment basis. Right now, we could be having this conversation. It could be very ordinary, and I could be going, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I agree with that, Andy, blah, 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 blah. And it would be dull. It would be not useful. Exactly. I would basically be the equivalent of a sleep aid. It would be like NyQuil with a beard. We don't need that. And so instead, though, my job here is, how do I bring value to you and all those who have taken time out of their day to say, how do they walk away in the next 30 minutes a little bit smarter, a little more like fired up, a little more driven to actually say, okay, I'm a little more me, I'm a little more dangerous, I'm a little more vibrant, I'm a little more relevant than I was 30 minutes ago. And if we've gotten to that point, I think we've done something good.
A little more dangerous. I love that too. It's that rebellious nature of yours, David.
I know.
You're such a game changer. And what I love about you is that you've been in this business a long time. You really raised the bar. You ask people to dig deep and show up and bring inspired work.
Yeah.
And of course, folks, you can't be comparing yourself to Picasso or somebody like a Seth Godin. I mean, that's inspired. Or behind me here, Damon John with this Power of Broke and all that he does. That's his type of genius and his type of inspired. Think about how you can bring it to your life, to those around you in life, with your deliciousness and the magic that you have. We all have it, but you know what? It does take work and it takes commitment to want to bring it out and share it, right, David?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Well, let's dig into branding, and let's start up very briefly and talk about what is branding. And I'll pop into the comment stream, everybody, and I'll have it in the archives too. David's very popular, viral, highly viewed video that is so elegant and so extraordinary called What is Branding? But just briefly, for those who might have a misconception about what branding is, would you please share?
Totally. All right. Well, first of all, let me address the misconceptions. The misconceptions, the common ones, tend to be, oh, a brand is a logo, a brand is a slogan, a brand is. They think it's a thing. Okay. Now, let's back it up and look at why do we brand in the first place, and this activity of branding, which results in a brand. Well, the thing is today, you and I and everybody that's listening, we all have more choices available to us now than ever before. I could pop online and I could Google blah, and I'll have 1.2, million results in 4 seconds, and it's a lot of quantities, a lot of noise. So the thing is that why we're branding is because there is a noise level, and the thing is that you and I, what we respond to is we respond to differences. We respond to the thing that is different, that is not like everything else. Because if it is like everything else, it's a commodity. And if it's a commodity, just by the sheer definition, it doesn't have an inherent value. And when this came to light for me was in 2010. We're in the middle of a shit economy. The economy was crap. And so, but yet, Steve Jobs is still alive at that point. And yet, Apple, under Steve Jobs, they unveil the iPod. iPad. I'm sorry, the iPad. The first iPad is unveiled. And here's what I noticed. Everybody's going, oh man, can't make ends meet. I don't have got to cut back on expenses and conserve this, that, the other, And you're getting all this bitch. Okay, fine. But yet you have a company, and Steve Jobs was brilliant at observing needs, connecting dots that others missed. Mm-hmm. And what happened was they unveiled it, and the next day there are lines around the world, everybody with their $800 plus in their hand, ready to buy it. All of a sudden, they've got $800. All of a sudden, their life was incomplete yesterday, and today, if they don't have their iPad, their life is not complete. All of a sudden, out of the blue. That showed me the power of what a brand is and the power of differentiation. It put together more components and more conveniences than had existed before in any one particular item. Plus, the user experience was great, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing is it comes down to 4 words, because here's the other point. I looked when I was doing the branding video that you're having the viewers, they're going to look at, which is called What is Branding? When I did that, I first went to Amazon.com and I typed in the little search box. I typed in branding, and searched under books, under branding. There were over 7,300 results. Not 500, not 700, not 1,000, over 7,000. That told me, you know what? It's possible there may be some fundamental simplicities that might be overlooked here. There can't be that many theories and viewpoints. I get it. You can be passionate about it, but come on. 7,000 books. So I wanted to get real simple, and it came down to a 4-word definition. Branding is the art of differentiation. The art of differentiation. When you really, really understand this, all of a sudden you realize people aren't looking necessarily for the cheapest item. Yes, there is the part of culture that is like, they're satisfied with Walmart. They don't care. They just want whatever you can get at the cheap. That's what's valuable to them. But to the audience, to those that don't subscribe to Walmart as the ultimate answer of a shopping experience, they're looking for something of a point of difference. The Walmart shopper, their point of difference is price. What's the cheaper price? That's the point of difference. It happens to be an economic metric. But for the rest of us, we're looking at, well, wait a second. If I have this water and I have this water, and it's brand A and brand B, and this is 16 ounces, this is 16 ounces, well, it's the job of those brands to tell you and I the story, so that we go, oh, this one makes me feel blah, and it hydrates, and it does this, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, all of a sudden, I'll buy that because of the obvious value and difference from this other item. That's why certain items can just command the price that they command, because their value is higher, the difference is higher, and the branding has been done right. So it is the art of differentiation. Those 4 words, live by them, and you can crush it.
Absolutely. And what you're diving into that's very important is that you're creating an emotional bond with your folks. And you see rock stars do this. Grateful Dead, folks like that did it brilliantly. They
Yeah.
just had to show up. Everybody did all the work for them.
Yeah.
And if you do your branding correctly and you do the art of differentiation correctly, and it is an art,
Yeah.
your percentage of rock star followers or audience or customers will then go out and get the world involved too. And of course, this is what Steve Jobs was appealing to. He knew where and how his audience was experiencing the world, and he gave them what they wanted.
Yeah.
And we'll go into some of the other challenges that happen, but I think it's just important at this point just to really bring up, why don't folks give a crap about our brands?
Well, because the bottom line is because we have failed. We have failed to actually differentiate. We have failed to differentiate. Here's what ends up happening. Take the water example I was just giving you, right? And I said, okay, Andy, I got these 2 waters for you. Which one would you like? Which one would you like to buy? I'm like, here's brand A, here's brand B. And you're like, which one's different? And what's the difference between the 2 of them? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You're going to go, you don't know. It's like, well, which one's cheaper? No difference. It's like this. I compare it to a seesaw, right? If the difference is clear, right, and if the difference is clear and the value is clear, price becomes less relevant. It doesn't become the main criteria by which people decide. If the price is the thing that your customers are focusing on, well, how much is it? Your point of difference and your value you've failed. So it's down here. If they start talking about that, your only solution is to actually raise it up. And why does it matter to them? And where people screw up, where business owners do screw up and brands screw up, is when they think they're talking about point of difference. Let us tell you all about us point of difference. No. Talk about the point of difference that means something to your audience. Point of difference to them. Like, great example, and I'm only going back to it because probably most of us have seen it. When Apple again came out with the iPod, the first iPod, right, with the white rectangle and the earbuds and the whole deal. Well, the thing was they didn't do what everyone else did. They pointed out their point of difference. First of all, it was how they framed it in terms of the colors and the visuals and the rock stars and the white little things that you just saw going in the ears. It was like, what is this? And then the whole thing was wrapped into 1,000 songs in your pocket. Did they ever talk about the number of gigabytes? No. Did they talk about the technology? No. And it was like, that was the 3rd or 4th MP3 player. It was not the first one. Not everybody knows that. So they came out with a 3rd or 4th, after the other ones had come, but they were the first to market it around the universe of that audience who they identified properly. That's the point. And that's why people don't give a shit about your brand if you just do the same old, you do what's expected, you talk like everyone else, you talk about next generation this, state-of-the-art that, most knowledgeable this, most caring this, great customer service. Well, you know what? Bottom line is all those mean zilch. Because bottom line is every one of your competitors is going to say the same thing. What are they going to say? Our customer service, pretty shoddy and not so good. You actually want to call and speak to a real person? That really won't happen. You're going to get you go on a phone tree. Ain't going to happen. Oh, you want someone who actually listens to you? No, we don't offer that. No, they're not going to be saying that. They're going to be saying the same thing that you and I are going to be saying. So how, if you are saying the same stuff, how is someone else going to be able to tell the difference between your brand and theirs? Telepathy? I don't think so. There is no psychic hotline for your brand.
And I think too, folks get into people pleasing, and they forget that it really is about who would buy their product.
That's right.
What do you think about focus groups for brands?
Focus groups, they could, if you have a really smart and very capable focus group leader who doesn't allow them to just sort of sit and become sort of like, an episode of The View in the morning where they're, well, I don't agree. Well, I don't agree either. Well, you know what? I don't agree. It's like, that's not the way. People don't shop in herds, okay? It's fine if you get a person saying something, and if you're smart, you look and see if others in the room are going, yep, I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't say it. That's different. You're perceptive and you're using the information. If you're leaning on the information as though that focus group is going to generate something for you, you will be led astray, because people don't shop in groups. People don't shop, in collections of 4 to 8 to 12 people. So you have to be really, really savvy. If you don't know your stuff, you can basically make horrible mistakes, because you will think the conclusions that they're coming up with are facts. That's the problem. It's not being able to separate out what are conclusions and what are facts.
I think that's very important. And I think that dives right into and flows right into one of these great posts that you've recently been talking about, which is the 4 devils of branding. Yeah. And if you're in a medium-sized or mature brand or larger brand company, you may recognize these. So David, share.
Okay, well, I remember 3 of them. I think you might have to remind me of the 4th one. I know that there's red tape is one of them.
Yeah.
Bureaucracies is the other. Mm-hmm. Committees is the other.
And politics, because it's about making the boss happy.
Ooh. All right. So, okay. So here's the deal. First of all, committees are death. Okay, simple. Committees are death. 3 words. Make sure. I want somebody to get that tattooed on their body and send me a picture of a tattoo. I'll put it on my Instagram. Committees are death. Why? Because there's a problem with the model of a committee. Committees are designed to basically assume that everyone in the room has equal degree of input, an equal degree of intelligence, an equal degree of experience, an equal degree of insight, an equal degree of just ability to connect dots properly. That's basically absurd. And plus the other thing is this. The whole model of a committee is, let's raise some points and now let's debate and suck the life out of it until it's just a little quivering little molecule of maybe something that might have had hope at one point in the far distant past. It's horrible.
And what you're also bringing up too is, whatever you do, don't take a risk or a chance or innovate or be ingenious.
Yeah. Look at all the things. Today's innovations are tomorrow's ordinary mainstreams. Right. What we take for granted, the phone, that was an innovation, or lights, or electricity, or all these various things are all innovations at one point, but someone looked into the future. If you base all your decisions against a future and not against the past, you're going to be much better off. But so committees are one devil of branding. Now, that's one point. Second point is with regard to politics. Politics suck. I think we can all agree on the fact that politics suck. Whether you're in the White House or outside of the White House, bottom line is politics, because it's a different agenda. It's kind of like, ooh, what would my boss like? That's why I tend to almost exclusively, I will work with the owners of companies. Yeah. I will work with the CEOs and the owners because they're the ones that actually have the vision, and they're not looking over their shoulder wondering what they're thinking. They know what they're thinking. It's my job to basically take what they're thinking and say, look, what you're thinking is great, but your conclusions are wrong, or your conclusions are great, but there are some missing pieces we need to bring together. And by having that direct contact, you avoid the whole political aspect where, ooh, I hope I'm making the right decision, because otherwise I might be out of a job. So now as a result, the criteria for that person making decisions and giving information is going through a filter of, will this forward my career, as opposed to, will this meet the branding objectives and actually work in the marketplace? Right. So that's that one. Red tape.
And by the way, folks who are managing these people or leading these people need to remember to give folks the space to innovate. Okay, go ahead, David.
Absolutely. Red tape is, bottom line is that's kind of like, I think Seth Godin, he said something brilliant. It was along the lines of, Seth had said, well, that's the way we've always done it, is not a strategy. Which I always thought was brilliant. I love that. And so the thing is things like, well, wait a second, it takes 5 weeks to get something approved, or, oh, we've got to go through X amount of layers of this to be able to actually and it sucks the life out of, wait a second, there's power. Now you could, like anything, you could abuse speed just like you could abuse moving slowly. You could use speed as an asset, or you could have speed be a liability. You could have lots of people involved as an asset, or lots of people involved as a liability. Every one of those could be used well or poorly. So what you want here is, how do you take this and remove the red tape, remove every speed bump, unless that speed bump truly has more value than it has liability, knock it the hell out of the way, so you're not dealing with red tape. There are times to use red well, and Ande is doing it this very second.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, then what's our last one? Bureaucracy. Is that the last one?
Yes.
So bureaucracy, it's really a cousin to red tape. But bureaucracy, it's a number of these things, but it's where you take organizational complexity and all that kind of stuff becomes the senior guiding principle, as opposed to wait a second, do we want to innovate? Do we want to actually change how this industry perceives XYZ? And who do we want to help? Because usually the wrong questions are being asked. There are questions such as, well, how do I make more money? Da, 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 da. My question is like, wait a second, forget about how to make more money. How about this? Flip it this way. And I did this with one of my clients, and actually it's become a new project of theirs. I say, well, instead of wondering how you make $1 million, how about how do you make millionaires? That's an empowering viewpoint. That's a total different viewpoint. Like, well, how do I make $1 million? Now it's like, oh, that means that everybody else has what I want, and now I got to like do whatever, and I'll give them something in exchange, and da 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 da. And that just becomes kind of whatever. As opposed to, wait, how do I make 100 millionaires? How do I make 100 millionaires? You will be valuable to those that you empower in that way. So we're in the job of empowerment.
Absolutely, because we've seen many brands go down the tubes once they decided it was important to follow the CFO's advice. Yeah. The accountant's advice. Oh, we gotta cut costs here. We gotta cut margins.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not saying. I mean, as Diamond John says about the power of being broke, you can't throw. If you have too much money, you're really going to lose the ability to really touch and feel, folks. You can mask a lot of things with a lot of money, but at the same time, branding is not where you go cheap. You got to find other efficiencies in your space and whatever it is that you're doing, because this is where your life blood of your company needs you to be. Now, what about for the solopreneurs who are out there, they're competing, they've got, whether it's a practice, from the dentist to the consultant to a coach, whatever. This is, they've got the shingle out for them.
Well,
the differentiating.
The thing is that it does not make a difference to me whether someone's a solopreneur or not. It's kind of like, I've had nonprofit organizations come to me and say, oh, do you work for nonprofits? I said, well, are you actually looking at actually succeeding? I don't give a damn that you've got a nonprofit status. I don't care. That doesn't matter. You're still supposed to be viable. You're still supposed to provide value. You're still supposed to actually offer something that will enrich the people that you're doing business with, whether you're a cultural organization or you're a community organization or you're some other type of organization. It doesn't matter. Nonprofit is sort of like irrelevant, just like being a solopreneur is irrelevant. It's how much value and passion are you bringing to that actual thing? Can you walk in and make the lives of your customers, patients, clients better? Can you actually make it better? Can you improve how they're doing things? Can you make how they're doing things smarter, heard more efficiently, taste better, look better, smell better? Can you do that? If you can do that, that's what matters. Solopreneur, so what? That's kind of like, do you have a Mr. before your name or a Mrs. before your name? Who cares?
Love it. I absolutely love it. And it's true. And I think a lot of solopreneurs get caught up in, well, I really want to help. I really want to do this for you. I want to do that for you. I want to do this for you. And it's like, okay, you got the eye going way too much here, folks.
Yeah, exactly. You need to look. It's like, how much value are you bringing to others? By the way, I see on the little applause things. I'm only at 675. I mean, people, it's like you got to touch that. We got to get that up to 800, or something real soon. Come on. I mean, come on. I have no pride here. Come on, we're almost
Show
there.
David the love, folks.
Bring it on.
There
We're almost there.
There we
We're
go.
almost there. Yo, baby. Yo, I love it.
That's brilliant. And I think too, with the branding, that's so important people forget is just not in what you're pulling together with your packaging or with your print materials or your website. It is a 24/7, right, David?
Totally. It really is. It's like, I mean, you know, I'll give you for instance. Okay, so I'm a native New Yorker, you know, and so I move out to the Midwest, and people are like, what the hell? What's a New Yorker doing out here? And you know, what prompted you to move out here? And you know, because their whole viewpoint is like New York is the center of the world, and that was my viewpoint. It took my wife and I talking back and forth. We were both pretty open-minded, but it's like, okay, who's going to move where? And actually, by the time we had our first year anniversary, we'd only lived together for 5 weeks, right? We were doing the long distance deal. I was becoming an aficionado of airline peanuts. Okay, that's how it got. If there is such a thing, talk about an oxymoron. Aficionado.
I know.
But this is at the point where when things are starting to shift, where they were starting to give you less and less as you walked on the airplane. My running joke with airlines at this point is, now they're going to basically say, look, we can either offer you just like a cracker, or if you actually want to see a photograph of real food, we could show that to you for $3. And so anyway, but the basic thing to give you hope that, you know, you will land and you will actually eat real food once again. But it's, you know, I would say that, what was your question? I totally forgot.
I think that's okay. We're talking about the full-time branding. You were talking about when you first moved to the Midwest and, you know, keeping the voice and, you know, and he's there.
Right. Exactly. And New York. And so the thing is, so I told people, I said, look, I bring it with me. It's like, I didn't cook as much when I was in New York. I always enjoyed cooking in my life, but I never quite cooked as much. And now all of a sudden I had a necessity. It was like, okay, I'm going to now actually cook, and I'm an amazing cook. I'm a great chef, but I brought that with me. I'm a real coffee snob. I'm a chocolate snob. I'm into those things. I bring those with me. I find them out. I seek them out, and I make it part of my life because I care. And to the degree that you care, that's the thing. I will tell you, the biggest trap that we as business people can run into is basically, and I wrote this down as a thing at one point, which is basically, if someone convinces you that their idea of you is more valuable than your idea of you, they are not a friend.
Wow. Everybody take that in.
Anybody that's convincing you that that their idea of you is more valuable and more valid than your idea of you is not a friend. They're undermining you, because there is nobody that will grant you the power to be as amazing as you are as you. And those that advocate that and those that support that, those are the ones that are really, truly allies and really, truly friends.
Right.
And that's.
And let's bring this into the packaging world, because this is where, again, a lot of people drop the ball. And I love, like, for example, you helped this wonderful luxury skincare line. I mean, talk about not a saturated place. Saturated.
Yep.
How did you help that company? And this is what we all have to be thinking, because it's saturated everywhere we go, folks.
Yeah.
And if we don't differentiate and we don't find those who want what we have, and reach them in that way, it won't work. So talk about that.
Sure. So Joanna Vargas, she's at the top of her game. Joanna is amazing. Anybody that wants to treat themselves to the best of the best, go to New York City and go to her salon and get yourself set up an appointment. But okay. Joanna and her husband Caesar, I had basically spoken with them, and I looked at their brand. They had really grown nicely, but they basically had approached me and they said, David, you know, we're thinking of rebranding because we're not sure that where our brand is today is exactly where it should be. And I looked at their stuff and I said, it's not. You're right. It is not where it needs to be. because I knew that their audience, that their customers are very affluent customers. I mean, Hollywood A-listers, CEOs, VIPs, celebrities of all sorts in all industries. So when you're dealing with that kind of caliber of client, how do you say, and why is it that a company like Tiffany can have this reputation for decades that everyone, or Bergdorf and Goodman? I mean, how can they have this reputation? Like, what do? Does it just happen? No, they create it every day and they live up to it every day. Why is it that Nordstrom's has such a reputation for such superlative customer service? Is it because they're living on past actions? No, they're actually creating their future with present actions. That's the difference. The difference between the past and the future. And that, by the way, is going to be really the subject of my upcoming book, Brand Intervention, just by the way. That is killer. And Damon John has written the foreword. It's going to
Yay. Oh,
love it.
Can't wait to see that. And I think you brought up a very important point is business owners. Every 6 weeks, you need to be taking a look at how you can innovate. Seriously, you cannot sit for a second. It needs to be part of your cycling on everything that you work on. Right, David?
So, well, actually, and in that point, you might have the link. I'm not veering off of our right now, but the exceeding expectations video.
Okay.
You know that one?
Yes, I do, and I can put that in the archives, everybody.
That one talks about expectations. That one talks about how that just merely meeting expectations is actually the recipe for failure. Yeah. Meeting expectations, and this is different than meeting a quota. Like if someone says, "Oh, you got to meet. Okay, you got to sell $50,000 worth of blah blah this month." Oh, that's different. That's fine. I'm talking about meeting expectations in terms of who are the people you deal with in your organization, or let's say outside of your organization, those people that support you, that provide services to you, customers, everybody at every point. How do you exceed expectation? How do you rise above what would be considered a good interaction? How do you raise it to amazing? How do you raise it to, whoa, I love speaking to that person because they're just I always feel so damn good by the time I hang up the phone. Wouldn't that be a great point of recognition as part of your brand, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the point of expectation. So exceeding expectations, that video, it's about 2 minutes long, beautifully animated. It's a great one to really tell what you're talking about.
Right. And so, and I'll have that in the archives, everybody. You've got to watch that. But let's go back to the packaging, because a lot of people get caught up on the engineering side of packaging. And so you spoke to a brand that had been out for a while, luxury, but it was having a ho-hum experience, and bless their hearts, they wanted to raise their game. Hooray. Exactly. How did you help them?
Well, basically what part of it was, I looked at a brand. All right, so we have the definition now of the branding, right? Which is the art of differentiation. Okay. Now, where does differentiation take place? This is where we got to get smart. Now think this through. Where does it take place? Well, wait a second. Touch? Ooh, if I touch it, does it feel like other stuff I've touched? Visually, does it look like other stuff, or does it look better? Okay, sound, color, words. I'll give you one little subtle change. This is just one part of it, because they can actually find this if they go to risingabovethenoise.com, where they can actually see befores and afters of what we do with Joanna's. But even this, prior to, the card was sort of a very light pink card with sort of like a little silhouetted sort of cherry blossom tree. It had a slight Asian feel. It said Joanna Vargas, and underneath it said skincare. And then what I did was I redesigned the whole thing with beautiful gold. So actually, this is just an example. This is the bag. Okay, just as
nice.
Okay, this is what was done. But just adding the word from skincare to skincare sanctuary, doesn't that change the entire context? Just the one.
Okay.
Skin
goddesses out there, have you ever heard that before? And doesn't sanctuary just take you there? Oh my God.
Exactly. So it's just like, so it was like, okay, wait. So what made the difference? It was like picking an espresso colored bag, a bag with material. It actually has material. It's beautiful
Oh,
material.
you've got the touch going.
Then
Yeah.
you've got the foil. Then you've got the foil, and you have all of those things. So I was looking at all of those bits and pieces. How do we dress it so that a extremely wealthy person who's probably driving in a 6-digit vehicle, or is being driven in a 6-digit vehicle, and is
That has
wearing
and it can choose
and
and they
is
can choose
wearing
any brand they want. Yeah.
yeah, what they're wearing and hair and this and that and the other. Da, 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 da. How do they know that you're talking the same language as they are? That became the question. And what happened was just after, I think it was after just 3 months of us doing this packaging and the boxes and the packaging that went to the new skincare line and the new branding, their actual amount of new customers increased 800% in 3 months.
Hello, everybody hear those numbers? 800%.
800%, 3 months. 800%, 3 months. Now, wait a second. I'm only at 1127.
Okay, everybody, let's give them some.
I want 1400, man. Like, come on, people.
Come on, everybody, get to work.
That's my
David some love here.
Come on, we're almost there. Bring it on. Come on.
Come on, Bill and Spencer and
Let's do
Talk
it.
To Me Guy. Here we go. Deborah.
Come on, we're almost there. Go. Keep going.
Go.
All right.
I feel like I'm at the slot machine. But you know, folks, if you think luxury brand's easy, it's really the hardest space to have any influence in, because you have folks who are not price sensitive, which means they can choose any friggin' thing they want.
That's right.
You know, it's just such a tough place and space to create design work like that. So congratulations. Another thing you do, David, that's really brilliant is you have glopped on, I mean, really taken charge and you lead with this. Your 2-minute videos, using videos for branding. How did you land onto the video space and really, raise the bar? Folks, I know many people say, hey, the video, with your camera, wherever you are, that's fine. Okay, Periscope, etc., connecting with your audience, but you really need to take some time if you're a brand, right, David?
Well, you do. And, and I looked at, there's a probably about maybe 4 or 5 categories of different types of videos that you'll actually find on my YouTube channel. There are ones that are humorous, that poke fun at the stupidities of doing business stupidly, as opposed to the stupidities of doing business intelligently. I like being redundant sometimes. It's just useful. But the thing is that there are those that are humorous in that way. There are other ones that are a little more case study driven, because I noticed that not everybody had really seen me in action, and so they wanted to get a sense of me. Then there are others. Then of the last 2.5 years or 2 years, I started to create videos that told a story, because I would know that when I would speak to people, I would see they would go, oh my gosh. They would all of a sudden they would connect these dots. They'd go, whoa. So writing my blog posts and doing the different things I do, as well as all of that, I decided to start to tell a story and to have it brought to life through animation. And when I say animation, I do not mean what I call the stupid little characters that go, hi, I'm Bob. Hello, I'm Sally. I mean, that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. That never impresses me, never closed me to buy any service ever. And I would not encourage any of you to get engaged in it, because it's like it doesn't add value. It doesn't look, does it look like a leader? Because we're talking about value, right? So anyway, so the thing is you'll see these animations, and I've had people, I mean, the comments have been unbelievable. People are like, I've got to watch this another time. I got to watch this 3 more times, 4 more times, because in 2 to 3 minutes, to be able to give them one nugget of gold and have them go, whoa. And I'm funding it. It's like, this is my investment into something. I'm not asking them to buy anything at the end of it. I'm figuring if I'm bringing value to the relationship through content that I'm providing, that's part of my brand.
That's right. And you've got to show it. And I'm posting in the archives, and I just posted right here for the live folks, your newest video, which is just groundbreakingly fabulous.
Thank you.
Hands down, not just because it has your sexy voice in there, David.
First of all, I want to say, Andy, I just want to say thank you very, very much, Andy.
Wow. Thank you. Whew, I need a cigarette now. Seriously, though, when you watch his ROI, return on ingenuity, it is right to the point, but it's inspirational and it's magical. And in today's economy and where we're going, we need magic. Heck, 50 years ago, we needed magic. Magic is what inspires, aspires, it lifts people up. Doesn't matter who, what, where, why your brand is. If you do that, and that's what you exemplify with your videos, you will have amazing results. And I just think, as you were saying, you just cannot go cheap on certain things. You've got to bring in those who know what they're doing to help you take it to that level.
And you raise a very good point. One of my things that I use is, if I'm making a decision, let's say I'm meeting somebody for the first time, or let's say whether in person or on the phone or on Skype or whatever, or I'm speaking someplace for the first time, and I start looking at the decisions that I'm making. How do I want to dress? How do I want to present myself? How do I want to, what kind of impression do I want to leave? Those are the questions that I ask. And I then make sure that every decision I have now made aligns with that. Is the suit that I'm wearing going to forward that? Is the tie that I'm wearing going to forward that? Am I properly groomed? Am I, or do I have my cards with me? Do I have the right presentations on hand? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just a matter of, you kind of have to find your sweet spot. But it's really looking at, is what I am planning on doing going to forward my objectives with that person? That's the type of question you need to ask yourself.
Exactly. And those of you who are leading the charge with your brand, whether you're the owner or head of marketing, CMO, whatever, you need to create the space for the magic to happen. If you get into micromanaging, if you get into every detail, you shut people down and their ability to innovate and be ingenious gets turned off. And so I highly encourage you to step back and let the magic flow. Sure, you have the final sign off on what happens. Same with you, business owner. But let those who are the creatives, give them the direction, give them the feel, but let them work their magic.
Yeah.
What do you
and the great thing, and here's the other thing too, because obviously it's a give and take. But I'll tell you people appreciate candor. People appreciate candor, not spiteful candor, right? But candor. Like, so for example, I think we had spoken, I think shortly after I had gotten back from the entrepreneur convention that I did out of the country, and in January. And one of the things, I told them a story in the beginning, which had to do with, after usually a client will tell me with great passion and enthusiasm all about their product and all about their service or whatever like that. And what they've done a lot of the time, like really a lot of the time, is they've collapsed their passion and their enthusiasm with legitimacy, as far as like that all of that somehow equates to, I know the audience, I know that, but all those things are not the same. There may be some overlap, but oftentimes it's like, okay, do we know who we're speaking to? Is the need established? Blah, blah, blah. Let's get real. And oftentimes their conclusions are very often wrong. And so I'm telling the story to this group of international business people, and I tell them about this, and I say, after I've been told all of this enthusiasm, and then they're done, I then thank them, and then I just tell them 3 words: you are wrong. And at which point the person is like, now I don't tell them like, you are wrong, right? I'm not telling them like that, and I'm not saying, maybe you're not exactly wrong.
Not so much.
It's like, no. It's like, no, as I say, very evenly, you are wrong. And if it warrants it, I might even say, and you actually couldn't be more wrong.
And then what happened?
But here's the thing. The entire place cracked up because nobody's usually that honest these days, right? And so it became a running joke as the week was going proceeding forward. People would raise their hand, like I'd say, does anybody have any questions? And someone would say, hi, yeah, I do. I know that I'm wrong, but my question is, and it became a running joke. But it was cool because it was like there wasn't this sort of little unspoken sort of, there wasn't a status play. There wasn't that kind of thing going on. And it actually made it a very safe environment to talk. So you have to have that candor to be able to say, look, you're wrong. You are wrong. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're
and I think that's important. I think it's important. I'd love to bring it up too in the way that when you're dealing with a mature brand, not only are you wrong, and maybe they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, mature brands get receding hairlines too. I mean, come on.
Right. And how to bring them up and help them reinvent. I mean, what do you suggest for that? And then we'll wrap up the show, because you've covered so much great information. But I always think about the mature brands out there and how they can stay edgy and keep reinventing.
It's like mature people. They've got a life, they've got aspirations, they've got all this kind of stuff. And a mature brand, the thing with a mature brand, and what I find with mature brands, the common flaw or misstep is that they've lost touch to keep themselves relevantly up to date with actually what's happening today. I took one brand as an example. I took a 100-year-old company that when it started, it was one company, and now it had like 5 core companies and blah, 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 blah. And it took me a while to figure out where it was going wrong, and it was going very wrong. It was, I asked them, I said, well, what you're calling your company today, that's what you called it back when in the beginning, what you were doing represented 100% of your business. Today, you've evolved 100 years down the road. That now represents 15% of your business, but the other 85% of your business is not represented in your current brand at all. So you've basically outgrown yourself and never updated yourself to now reflect what you are today. Would you be branding yourself today like you are if you were a startup? Is one of the questions I sometimes will ask, to give them a fresh pair of eyes. And they're like, well, no, but I don't care about the but. The but doesn't matter, because that was then. That was 100 years ago. Most of those people are dead.
Right.
So as a result, they're not going to show up on your actual, they're not going to show up in terms of revenue stream. Dead people don't usually really provide too much in the way of revenue stream.
Right. But I bring that up because I think we all learn from that. So mature startup, it doesn't matter. You need to have your brain wired to be thinking about, how do I keep reinventing and innovating and because your audience is going to change. It absolutely will. Yeah. When we had our business college broadcast, we had our thumb on the pulse of what was happening that year on college campuses, that moment on college campuses. And those who hired us understood that was going to change in a month, in 6 months, in a year. And all of us should be that savvy. What message would you like folks to take away today from our conversation?
Well, first of all, for those, I do see that some people checked in. Oh, damn! I only, I missed the first half hour. I missed it, whatever. And you're going to you definitely want to let these people know how they can see it again, so they can see the whole thing. But what I would say is this. I always make this point when I speak to whether it's a conference or a convention or an interview such as this, is that what I tell people is I say, look, rules enable you to follow, but knowledge enables you to lead. Don't take any of the things that we've talked about today as rules that okay, now when I get up in the morning, I do blah, blah, and I do da-da. I get it. There are disciplines and regimens and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is rules enable one to follow. But knowledge, which is the ability to think, observe, connect dots, know the questions to ask, those enable one to lead. And that's the difference. Anybody can have a regimented thing where it's like, okay, blah, 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 blah. And I've seen companies, I would never work for them in a million years, that are regimented and they make money and they do all these things, but there's nothing rewarding about it. You're kind of going through you're being like you're a cog in a wheel, in a machine. And
it is no longer safe.
Right.
Playing it safe is no longer safe, folks. Just saying.
You don't want to be in a safe environment, especially now that after watching this, you're going to be that much more dangerous. Ooh.
Yeah. Rebel rouser. Game changers. Let's everybody give a huge love hug to David right now. Come on, lean in there and give him those props. Take him up to 2,000. Numbers are very important to David.
Hey, I want to
Let's
see it. I want
go.
to see it. Bring it on, people. Bring it on. I
Come
want to put it in heads.
on. We got these love hugs going
Come
here.
on, bring it on, people. You're doing it. Doing it.
Yay!
Keep going. Come on. You're getting there. Almost there. Almost there. Come on. A little more. Bring it. 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 Oh yeah.
Yeah. This has been wonderful. As I said when I first met you, I just knew I needed to, well, be a little bit of a follower in watching you and what you're doing, because you inspire, you trigger inside of us.
You're an observer, Andy. That's different.
Yes, I am.
You're not a follower. See, when I talk about follower, like follower almost has a little bit of a quality of being passive, but you're an active observer. That's different. And that's
okay. I love that, everybody. Active observers.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you brought your genius onto the show. Those of you who are here live, remember it's time for the afterglow party. So when I hit end record, you can all hop in. And as David said earlier, do not be shy. You join us in here. Bring your fine divine self.
Join us.
Doesn't matter if your hair is in curlers. We don't care. We want to talk to you.
Look, Andy and I had one, basically just two basic rules. Well, three. I think one that you brush your teeth this morning. Two, that you're clothed from the waist up. And three, what was the third one? That
you bring your brain. Don't come in and just go.
You bring an alert mind. You bring an alert mind.
Right.
Those are the things. That you brush your teeth. That you're clothed from the waist up, and that you have an alert mind. That's it. Very, very low cover charge.
Yay! So, David, where can folks find you before I hit end record?
Well, they can definitely go to risingabovethenoise.com. That's risingabovethenoise.com. We're actually, just in the next matter of days, we're actually going to be shifting things over in terms of, we're going to have an invite-only community. There are things that you can get that you can download to see, but there's over 170 articles on there. I mean, actual, like, good stuff, not fluff. I don't believe in fluff. Fluff is for pillows when you're
clearly. Okay? It's not dangerous enough fluff.
Yeah, no fluff. We're in a fluff-free zone. But visit, stop by, subscribe, and reach out. If you've got questions, reach out. Do not be shy. Shyness is overrated, and my espresso can cure shyness. Trust me.
Great. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this amazing show with our fabulous guest, the brilliant branding expert, David Brier. I will have all the links to his videos in the archives, which you can find on YouTube at Andelicious Advice. You can watch right here, of course, and on my website and everywhere else I glow. I'll be sharing this. Please reach out to us. And in the meantime, please know I am in awe and wonder of you and your courage and your tenacity and your perseverance and your bold and dangerously delicious self as an entrepreneurial adventure. I'm cheering you on from here and wishing you an Andelicious day. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Thank you,
Bye,
Andy.
everyone.
Great. Thank you, Andy.